Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast, with your hosts, Mike Mannino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Michael Mannino to Driven, Unscripted Success Podcast. Today, on the podcast, we're interviewing professional and financially successful people who share their experience and tips with you, the audience, how they got to where they're at today. And zooming from the beautiful islands of Fort Myers, Florida, is Dr. Dawn Belamarich. Could you introduce yourself, Dawn?
Thank you so much for that. It is
No
nice
problem.
to be here. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, I am Dawn Belamarich, and I am from the beautiful New Jersey, but I am here at Collaboratory as our president and CEO in Fort Myers. I'm really trying to make a difference in our nonprofits and in our community and some of the social challenges we face.
Awesome. Could you give me a brief introduction of what you're focusing on, what your focus is?
Sure. So here at Collaboratory, we are a community foundation. We are 50 years old next year, so we have a little proof of concept. And ultimately, at a high level, our role historically has been bringing in philanthropic dollars and putting them out to our nonprofit partners. Over the last few years, we've really tried to adjust that approach. We have put out about $132 million in the 50 years, and we, for the future of the organization, really want to make sure that the money we're putting out is impacting some of the big social challenges that we face. And per our community, we surveyed them. Those are education and workforce, housing, health and wellness, environment, and then place, or essentially the built environment of our region. We serve 5 counties here in Southwest Florida, from Lee, Collier, Charlotte, Hendry, and Glades.
Nice. Housing. I'm in multifamily, so I can probably help you out somehow. That's awesome. You're doing the Lord's work on that. That's awesome. Congratulations. And sounds like you really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, I know we'll talk a little bit about my background, but I'm used to working one-on-one with clients pretty historically. So the idea of trying to impact things at more of a system level is really exciting.
Nice. Well, how do I explain this? What is the key? We've had this little conversation off camera. What is the key to getting people off addiction?
Yeah, the miracle question, right? Hit me with it
It
right
is.
out. Yeah. Well,
Let's hit a baseball out of the park.
no, I like it. It just keeps me on my toes. I think
I'm gonna keep you on your toes, young lady. That's for sure.
I love that. I love that. No big key, as we talked earlier, right? But ultimately, I think step one in any self-help program is surrender. And, I've been really blessed. I call it blessed because I've seen a lot of turmoil and horrible outcome, with the disease of addiction. But when people truly surrender, accept the help in front of them, surround themselves with a positive network, and quite frankly, are accountable to themselves and others around them, there's a lot that can happen in recovery for people that are struggling with addiction. So I always say surrender is step one. You really can't do any behavioral change or any real big change without first kind of succumbing to what is.
I've interviewed a few people and I follow a few people online, and a lot of them, a lot of very successful people have been addicts.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is cool what you have the possibility to become. I know
Yeah.
a billionaire that was an addict at one point.
I'm sure you do. To me, one of the smartest groups of people I've ever worked with are in recovery, because if you think about it just logistically, you'll probably do anything to get your substance or, your drug of choice, whatever it is, because it can be gambling, there's sex addiction, whatever your, gap filler is. And when you
Right.
when you turn that into a positive, you can almost take over the world.
So if you're resourceful, you'll do
Mhm.
well in business, right?
Correct.
And like you said, they'll do anything to get their drug of choice, whatever that is. And yeah, I've seen. I thought, you're right. The people that are addicts could be very successful people. Let's put that out there.
Very much, and most of the people I know and love are. So that's a true tale of the tape for sure.
Nice. So in your space, there's a lot of businesses out there doing it. And what sets you apart? What you've got a lot of people behind you helping you. What is your secret? What do you do that most people don't?
So I think for Collaboratory, there's hundreds of community foundations across the country, right? It's a very important component of any community. But what really sets us apart is that we can take a neutral third party approach to some of the issues that we face. Every
Hmm.
nonprofit, every business I've ever worked with will always be laser focused on their product or service or whatever line item they're tasked with. And here, I think we can get an outsider's perspective and then really take a fresh glance at what we're trying to fund or what we're trying to put together. So that's a differentiator, I think, from Jump being that neutral third party. And then the next piece is, we have data dashboards that we've launched on our website for all of those causes I discussed early on. We are truly trying to take a data-driven approach to the work we're doing and ensuring that when we are funding projects or scaling projects, that we can truly say that it made a positive impact in that social issue, which I think is a real differentiator in a lot of nonprofit spaces.
Yeah, yeah. So data driven in health. What's the data driven part of it that now you just got me interest of?
Yeah, well, on our Health and Wellness Coalition website, and I'll share that after for sure, we are looking at some regional data points around mental health. So access to providers, provider shortages in mental health and other service lines. We're also looking at access to healthy foods, right? Proximity that individuals are to healthy food access. We're looking at some mammogram screenings and some things for cancer-related items that would impact. But ultimately, the drivers of what we're trying to do, like the indicators we have data on, are what the community identified over time as their biggest priorities. So we just basically combined all of the data, worked with an organization to make sure it was turnover proof, and then launched these dashboards as like our accountability loops to getting somewhere
Nice,
going. Yeah.
nice. We're talking about accountability off camera, and it's important. It's one of the most important things in any business, in anything you do, in
Agreed.
life,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
Um, if somebody listening to this right now and was doing what you're doing and wanted to get better at it, what would you suggest to them? What tips would you give them?
Hmm.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's a good question. I think like professionally,
Yeah, like if someone was to step into your shoes and all the knowledge that you had over you've accumulated knowledge past the 50 years, with all the greats behind you, all the great psychologists before you, what would you tell them of all the cumulative knowledge would you give them to get better at what they're doing?
one, stay super open to feedback. I think, one of the things as leaders that we constantly get trapped into is like the doom of our own expertise, the demise of our own,
Our own expertise.
we've reached the pivotal point and I have nothing left to learn. What I've learned here in the short time I've been in this community and certainly in addiction treatment prior is the community's evolving, its residents are evolving, and its needs are evolving. And I have a responsibility now as a leader of a foundation to constantly keep that feedback coming through and the loop, constant, and not to settle in my perception or my expertise of the region, but to keep those feedback loops active. That is a really important piece. I think at some point we stop taking feedback that doesn't fit our story. And I'm not sure that that's always the best benefit for growth.
Is that individual bias, and then you're going to stick with your bias instead of
Yeah,
being
or like
open
what
to
we
other
did 10,
opinions?
yeah, or what we did 10 years ago and kind of sticking to it, right? I just think there's so much value in feedback. And even if it doesn't help you change course, because you don't have to be reactive to all of it, that it sits there with you because it's real and it's present and it's actual. There's such a value add, especially in this role. I mean, my responsibility is to the community, right? So receiving
Hmm.
that feedback continuously is so valuable.
Yeah, exactly. We do that in our business too. We want to know what to get it better. That's probably one of the greatest features of intelligent people and people that are successful is getting feedback from everybody.
I agree.
How can we get better?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure this is gonna be a crazy one for you. So I'm sure you've had some challenges in your life.
Never had a one. What's a challenge?
That was the funniest answer I've ever got. I've been doing this a while, and that is literally the funniest answer that I've ever got. So, what is one of the biggest challenges that you can share, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I'll talk about my previous life as a CEO for addiction treatment campuses. So prior
Mhm.
to leading the foundation, I was running mental health and addiction treatment inpatient campuses. So places where patients stay.
Campuses?
Yeah, 100 plus bed facilities where patients
Okay.
would stay for probably 25 to 30 days. And we'd have an average of 100 to 110 patients pretty regularly in the building. Um, so many challenges every day. I mean, the day where there's no challenge is like the minority, but the biggest challenge I always face is keeping team members motivated in very challenging environments and so I'll use that as like the hardest example, right? Because it's an example for every business leader, but keeping your team first while also making sure that they're accountable and that they know what their role is, but remembering that they are the first line of defense and the first kind of eyes and ears for your customer, which for me was patients coming in and their families, and that their contentment, their happiness, their ability to feel like they're a part of something great is what's going to transfer to that first line customer. It's the biggest challenge in the world. And when you're in a rehab and you're not catching a lot of W's every day, the challenge grows exponentially larger daily.
I could only imagine. So, like, I've been in business and run companies and had people working with me, and being a leader is tough, but being a leader in a tough position of outcomes has got to be way tougher.
Yeah, especially a business of humans, right? Like the business of working with human beings specifically is you want the best outcomes. Many of us that go into this space have, seen our own things or have experienced our own things and want to make a difference. And you have these heartfelt people that are there. And when you're not catching a lot of wins, when you see a lot of doom and gloom or fatalities, addiction takes a lot of lives. And that's not just outside of the treatment center, right? That's inside the treatment center.
Oh,
It's
so you've had people to pass in your facilities while you're running it.
Yeah, people pass, they get substances in or they come in under the influence and there's been emergencies for sure. I mean, it's a very challenging environment. And ultimately you have to keep a team engaged and motivated and mission driven right through that. So I just think that's one of the most important leadership lessons I've learned is that your team, you build the culture, right? That the leader kind of sets
Yes.
the culture and the team really like executes on that. But making sure that they are 100% bought in and you're supporting them and that they feel a part of something bigger is going to transfer to your client every time.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, it's great. That's great. I did it in construction for a long period of time, and it's amazing how a bunch of men have feelings that you have to deal with on a daily basis. So
I
I
know.
couldn't I couldn't imagine being where you're at.
And I will tell
I
you,
had a
more
hard
men
time
had
with
the
just
feelings
that.
than women. Yeah, always the men. Always.
I'm learning that. I'm learning that. Like, Brian said this, Dave said this, and I'm just like, oh God, guys, could you just put up the wood,
Right. You're like,
finish
call
this
your
house?
therapist. Call your therapist, guys.
Call your therapist. And yeah, exactly. I love therapy and I love talking to you about this because if I were to do it over again, I would go to college and do psychology. I'd like to learn more about it. It
It's
is
not too late,
amazing.
Michael. Come on over to the dark side. It's not too late. It's a great place over here. The weather is warm.
I'm sure it is, but I love what I do. I really
Okay.
do love what I do.
Well, that's
Sounds
good.
like things are going pretty well for you in your business, and looking forward to the future. Wondering what you do to get successful, be successful, and turn that into passive income.
Oh, I didn't think about this question until obviously this came in, but I will say for every therapist, right, before collaboratory, being a therapist is becoming a little bit more readily available and a little bit more
It
talked
is.
about, right? We're
Mhm.
actually talking about men with feelings on here, which 20, 30 years ago was pretty unheard of. So I think prior to collaboratory, there was a ton of opportunities for therapists to do, side therapy, to have private practices, to drop a shingle and, really work with the patient population. And I think that continues. There are in-home models where you can actually deploy to people's homes so they don't have to leave to come to a therapy office. There
That's
are,
interesting. I know
yeah,
there's in online, right? But in home, that's educational to know.
Yeah, and when you think about, the idea of going mobile to someone who's in distress and then being able to work with them one-on-one in an environment where they're very comfortable, that has a lot of value, I think, to someone that's struggling. So there's a variety of different options. They're continuing to grow post-COVID. A lot more passive revenue streams open for therapists virtually, right? Because now we're all using Zoom and Teams. I think of like the next generation up where I find it challenging to do that, to create an emotive relationship with people through a screen all the time. But there's value to it because access, like we're seeing here at Collaboratory, is a huge issue. And we want people to be able to access any way they can. So on the therapist side, tons of different opportunities, to be able to do that. And as a business leader, I mean, there's always an opportunity. I see people all the time that just have a brain for entrepreneurialism that are finding business and solution in everything. So, it just, I think for me, that's not, where I'm at right now because I'm leading this organization. But historically, being able to see a problem, knowing that you have a credential to be able to tackle it, and then figuring out what doesn't exist in the marketplace is always an opportunity for passive income.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think you should cure some people and then put that out there and show other people how to, because you can do a math, because you only do one, I think I had the same problem you did was building and doing construction is I only had one project or two projects to do at a time. And, you might have 10, 20 patients, but you can't really do more than that.
Right.
So what I'm noticing lately is a lot of people are opening online courses, and that really starts to change everything because you can help multiple people at the same time and not even be there.
Yeah. And you just see the opportunity, right? Like if you have 20 people that are taking your course at $25 a pop, to your point, and you pre-record it, it's just, it's getting your wheels spinning on innovation and honestly, what people want and need versus what you want them to want and need, I think is a big opportunity because I would love to identify little lanes that I think I want people to want. But the reality is if they're not interested, they're not going to buy in.
Well, I've learned a long time ago, you just put the offer out there. And the people that want, the people that come up to you and take your offer are the people that want to help.
Right. It's true. That's
You
true.
know, it's I've tried many times to lead a horse to walk and it just doesn't, they can't get them to drink.
So true. That is true.
So wrapping up the interview, love talking to you, love hearing about this stuff, love talking to you more about it. What's your plans in the future? What do you got coming up in the next 6 to 12 months?
So at Collaboratory right now, we are working really hard to get those data dashboards fully out there to the region, and hopefully having some partners that are using them in real time, right? So basing a lot of their decisions on funding and potential grants or donor relationships on moving the needle in those areas. So that is a big priority for us here. We really want to work with local, municipalities too, right? To make sure that they have some single source of truth for funding and for things like that. So that is a big, big priority. Personally, I can talk personally for a second. I
Let's
have
go.
found a newfound passion for apparently endurance sports. So I did my first triathlon 2 weeks ago. And now
Well,
I'm
let's break on that for a second. So what'd you do and how many miles? What?
I did the St. Pete Tri. I did the Olympic
Okay.
one. It was a 1 mile swim, 26-mile bike, and a 6 mile run.
Wow.
Now I'm contemplating, should I do the half Ironman in September?
Yes. The answer is yes
I
to
don't
that.
want you to co-sign that for me, Michael. I want the
I
committee in
just did.
my head to
I
tell me
just
no.
did. See how I just did that? See, you have the ability to do that. I do not have the ability to do that. But I do other crazier things than that. So I'm a professional brick breaker and I go to the US Open pretty much every year regularly.
Really?
Yeah, you ever see those crazy guys on TV with
Yeah.
martial arts uniforms on breaking stuff? I'm one of those guys you might have seen on TV once or twice.
I have to
Um,
check that out now because that would be right up my stick alley. So I'm happy for you. That sounds really cool.
but I cannot do endurance. I am the quick twitch, I am the quick twitch master. But when
Yeah.
it comes to running a mile, I start to see dead relatives.
Yeah. Well, I played soccer growing up. So the running piece, I
Yeah.
think I have, like I played through college, right? But swimming, let me tell you, it is not for the faint of heart.
A mile in the water is
In the
a
ocean.
lifetime. In the ocean with current, So if
I
you
don't want
go
to talk
back
about
and forth, because here's the key. You've got, if you go back and forth in the ocean, but if you go in one direction, you could be going against current.
So you're ready
But
for
if you
this
go
one?
back
The
and
whole
forth,
one, it was the whole mile was against for this one. No back. You went one direction and you went
in the
against
name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, that is just
You're
crazy.
cursing, you're doing all the things that Jersey girls do in the water. You're just trying
Yep.
to survive. And when you get to the end, you're like, I can do anything. That's what you do.
Right. Right. That's what I love about challenging myself. And we talked about this accountability and challenging. I love challenging myself. When someone says the greatest words to me, you can't do that.
That's right.
That's when I get
Challenge
started.
accepted.
Yeah. It's like, all right, it's already done. I just got to figure out how to do it and do it. And I'm on your page, but the endurance part, you'll never see me do.
Well,
Never.
send prayers, please, because I'm debating it, but I think I'm going to sign
Do
up
it.
for it.
Do it.
Okay.
I got a bunch of friends that do it. I got a good friend of mine, John Zuris, who I met at the U.S. Open. He's the heavyweight brick breaking champion at the time I was doing it, and he's 6'4", runs around at 270, and he dropped down to 230, and he did a full Ironman.
And he loved it. Like, he was all about it.
I don't know if you can love it. I think you can do it. Right. I mean, an Ironman, you start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and if you don't cross the line at 12 o'clock at night, you can't call yourself an Ironman. He crossed the line at 11:55.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine that?
Wow, it's like my actual nightmare.
Pedal broke on the bike, threw his shoe off the thing, and
I just got anxiety from that. That just gave me chills.
Right. Exactly. But, he's got a story that nobody else has. I mean, I don't know if anybody went past 11:55, but I'm pretty sure he's close to the last one. I could imagine the guy that crossed at 12:01. And those guys, the marathons, they're just like, no, that's the rules. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, it's legit.
Yeah, it is. But the half Ironman, I'm more than certain you can do without even trying.
Okay, we'll try. We'll try our best, I promise.
All right, Dr. Dawn, do me a favor. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, could you give them your name and contact information, what kind of social media you want to get on?
Sure. So Dawn Belamarich, and you can definitely find me on Collaboratory's website at collaboratory.org. My email is just my first initial last name at collaboratory.org. So D Belamarich. Good luck spelling that one at collaboratory.org.
Well,
you'll see it on there.
We got you on the screen.
And I'm a very avid LinkedIner. So you will see me on LinkedIn at Dr. Dawn Belamarich.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for your wealth of knowledge and everything you do. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.